Hi, I'm Tiffany Ann with Dreams Recycled, and today our special guest in our expert series is Jim Kellner, who is a hypnotist speaker, TEDx speaker as well, right?
Yeah,
Author of Navigating Success, and all around good person, really. So, hi, Jim, how are you?
doing great. Thanks, Tiffany. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. So, you have an interesting story. So you did many things before becoming a hypnotist, no?
I did lots and lots of stuff. Waiter, massage therapist, phone psychic.
Okay, so what inspired you to become a hypnotist?
I was always interested in that kind of thing and weird stuff when I was a kid. And so I would be checking out books on hypnosis and Chinese medicine, all kinds of stuff like in junior high. And I sort of got off track with stuff. And then finally, at around 40, I started really diving into hypnosis, started using it, took off 70 pounds, changed my whole life, and started helping other people.
Wow, okay. So people don't change overnight, right? You know what I do? I work with divorcees, and people are like, I've been married for 25 years and it's been a week since my divorce. Why aren't I better yet?
Right, exactly.
And the same as with, weight loss or anything else. So do you remember looking back, what was the trigger for that? Because most people have a trigger where they accept that they need to change.
Well, I had many of those triggers. And the one that finally stuck was, I can remember I'd read Ben Franklin's autobiography, and what he did was he kind of tracked his habits.
Mm-hmm.
I had read this other book that talked about tracking your habits, and I said, what I need to do, because I'd always wanted to meditate. So here's the thing: I always wanted to meditate, I always wanted to exercise, I always wanted to eat healthy, but it was always something I could put off until tomorrow. And finally, I said, well, what if I start keeping track of this stuff and make a little checklist for myself, and did it like that. It made it almost a game. And so, going out for a 5-minute walk, even if I didn't want to, I'd want to check it off of my list. And so that's sort of, it was that. And like you said, I mean, I know you run this too. I get clients all the time that'll be like, I've got a 25-year reunion coming up next month. Can I lose 40 pounds? Unless you're cutting off a limb, probably not. It's like, but if you want to do it over 6 months, I can absolutely help you. But if it's, if you're trying to rush things, here's the thing, Tiffany. Every once in a while, somebody changes their life instantly, overnight. Everything changes, and then they write a book and they get on TV shows and everything because it's so rare. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why, because that's not how it happens. It's not glamorous to say that, I just started making these little changes. I meditated for 2 minutes a day, walked for 5, and ate an extra fruit or vegetable a day. That's not glamorous. People don't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're familiar with my story, I don't know if you are, but I write about this in my book and my story, and I was a mess. Like, obviously, I wasn't good at what I was doing. It was not working for me.
Right.
And the big thing for me was when I actually sat down, and instead of focusing on everything I couldn't change in my life, I made a very simple list of everything I could change in my life.
Right.
And it wasn't, like buy a Lamborghini tomorrow, or it wasn't anything like that. It was like little realistic things. Like I could change the color of my hair. I could eat healthier. I could visit a different gym or church or wherever it was. And I think that people underestimate the power of very small daily positive changes.
Absolutely.
But as you said, they're definitely the ones that seem to stick more and end up being the most successful.
Really, yeah.
So your book, Navigating Success, so what does that discuss?
Well, so that's an interesting story in itself. My co-author, Andrew Alexander, and I co-wrote that several years back. And we rushed to get it out because he's very much of this mindset of like, let's get it out there and let people make some changes, and then we'll fix it later. Well, we did, and we got some great response, but also, as I'm rereading it, we had typos on the first page, and so we finally pulled it and we're revising it now. And it's really kind of a book that I want to give to clients and say, here, this is going to save you a lot of money. Like we'll do 3 to 6 sessions and then take this book and go on with the rest of your stuff, because it really talks about, these small goals. It talks about, reframing the bad stuff that happens to you. A lot of mental exercises, NLP and hypnosis and things that really can help to really kind of just push you forward when you don't think you can go forward.
Well, you mentioned NLP. Now, I see this a lot now. So can you explain to people who don't know what it is, and how it helps?
Also I'll tell you there's a whole lot to NLP. For the client, for the person that wants to use it to better themselves, all they really need to know is that they're mental exercises. And so, we sometimes underestimate how powerful our imagination is. And sometimes just going through these things, these sort of mental exercises, can make a huge shift. I'll give you one example. I was at my first NLP training, and right before we went to break, I really wanted some peanut M&Ms. I don't know why. I really wanted these.
Well, they're good.
Yeah, they are good, right? They're the devil. But right before we went out to go to break, I'm thinking, oh man, I can't wait to go to break. I'm gonna get the big size one. And the guy who was training asked for a volunteer. He said, "You want to do this thing to get rid of cravings?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll try." It's not going to work because I really want those peanut M&Ms, right? So I go up and he does the mental exercise on me. It's called a swish pattern. So if you're out there and you're having cravings, Google it. You can see a YouTube video or something. We went to break. We came back, and he says, "Oh, hey, by the way, how were the peanut M&Ms?" And I go, "I forgot all about them."
And he was like, "You're sold."
Exactly.
Yeah, because that sometimes is the biggest challenge, right? So do you remember when you lost 70 pounds, which congratulations, that's a good achievement in itself. So when you lost that weight, do you remember what the changes you kind of undertook were to get there?
Yeah, and so, it really is. It's the very first things that I did was I decided that I try to, and here's the thing too, is a lot of times when they blow it, so I'll tell you what my goals were. Literally, these were my goals: a 5-minute walk, 2 minutes of meditation, and 1 fruit or vegetable. And those don't sound like a big deal to most people. But for me, for fruits and vegetables, I hadn't had a fruit or vegetable that wasn't fried or baked in a pie for, years. Okay.
Yikes.
So it was kind of a big deal. It's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but mostly that was it. I hardly ever had vegetables or fruits. I always wanted to be a meditator. I always thought that would be the best, And now we find out that most successful people do some sort of meditation. And this exercise, I remember thinking, 5 minutes isn't going to do anything, and it won't. If you're out there, I'm not trying to BS you. You're not going to lose weight with just that 5 minutes, but it starts the habit. And that's really the most important thing in the beginning, is just getting that habit going. And that's literally all I did to start with. And then each week I just added to it. I mean, by about a year in, I was eating 11 fruits or vegetables a day. I ran like a 5K around the lake that I set a goal to, and I was up to meditating 10, 20 minutes a day.
That's cool. Do you still meditate?
I've gotten off track with it, and it's really irritating. So I do it sometimes. Are you a meditator?
I've tried. I would like to be better at it. I've tried it on and off. And I think it's like anything else, like you said, it's a habit you have to kind of get with and stick to. But I have one of those prism brains that I constantly are thinking of 25,000 things.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, and there's also, not to be a whiner, but to being a single parent and an entrepreneur and everything else I do, it's there's always something to do. So to find any time for me, that's probably my go-to problem, I think. It's not time management because I'm very productive, but finding that extra just where I can do something for me. But I'm working on it. Good.
Well, the Zen saying, I think what is it? If you can't find time to meditate for 20 minutes, you should do an hour.
Yeah. Or my mom always says to me, give the job to a busy person.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They're always the ones that get it done because you have to. People who know me know that if you tell me, I need to do something, I do it right away. I don't schedule it to do whenever. It's okay, I'm doing it now.
Awesome.
So, Okay, so so then you became a hypnotist.
Right.
And so what do you help people do, obviously? Because it's really powerful kind of therapy, right? Hypnotherapy, really powerful for many different things.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, so for the longest time, I worked in a clinic, and the two main things were weight loss and smoking. And those are the things I think that most people think about is, quitting smoking or losing weight.
Mm.
Since I went out on my own, started my own practice, I've had just an unbelievably diverse group of clients. I still do weight loss and smoking, and they're still probably my main ones. But I get things like I had a woman who wanted to be able to see entities, as she called it. And my feeling is I don't need to have the same belief system as my client. I just have to help them get their goal. And the rationale that I used was, for cigarette smoker, I have cigarette smokers that, after a couple sessions, they don't even notice cigarettes anymore. And I said, well, so there's that filter we've put in. What if we took the filter off? And so you could see entities. And crazy enough, she's seeing entities now. And I'm like,
wow. Do you
I
mean
don't
like
want this.
I see dead people? All I can think of is that kid in Sixth Sense.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Oh,
and I'm like, I do not want this for myself because I don't want to see dead people. But there's a story there, but it was really important to her. So I've helped people do that. I've helped entrepreneurs, make more sales, and people get over public speaking fears, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's interesting, isn't it? We're a species of people that really have a lot of fears, phobias, and addictions in any form, right? And that's the big coping mechanism. And I know other hypnotists, as you know, I know.
Right, yes.
And I hear the stories that they say too, and it's just so powerful. And what a great thing you're out there doing that, helping people.
It really is. In fact, I'm sometimes surprised myself at sometimes the results that people get. I saw my own progress, because when I started doing those other things, I also started using hypnosis. And I see these results, but it's still, and especially like when I do a comedy hypnosis show, honestly, almost every time afterwards, I'm like, I can't believe that worked, because it's
like surprise.
Yeah, it's so amazing what's possible once we access the unconscious mind. It's just unbelievably powerful.
Yeah, and it's a shame. So I have my daughter is a very talented singer. Mm-hmm. I'm going to brag on her now, and she really is. But she is petrified of singing in public. Mm-hmm. And I look at her and I look at, other people who it's really just the fear that stops them doing something they love and something they're really good at. And I think of hypnotism like that, we're all out there trying to do the best we can, but we're the species of very fearful people with bad habits who need help.
Right. And the funny thing is like I will have people say to me, I want to be a public speaker, but I'm just so afraid to speak in front of people. And I'm like, welcome to the club. We all are when we first start, so for your daughter to be afraid, that's the natural thing. It's unnatural to want to put yourself out in front of people and face that ridicule from an evolutionary standpoint, where it could have caused us to be, ostracized and sent away and stuff. So that's a legitimate fear. It's just that some of us were able to use some tools to work through that and get ourselves up there. And then once you start doing it, of course, like everything else, it becomes easier.
Yeah, I public speak. Really, I actually start all my public speaking engagements by saying I'm not a public speaker. Right?
Right.
It really is I look at other people and other people doing this, and I think we all do that. We all subconsciously or consciously judge yourself on other people, and other people seem like they're so great, but maybe they're not that great. Maybe they've just been hypnotized.
You know what? That's such a great. This is my big message, and one of my new talks is, and I just gave it last. It was funny. I got invited to do a talk for a Toastmasters group. I'm not a member. I'm not a Toastmaster. I'm going to join, I think, so it seemed pretty cool. And I've spoken to I've made lots of money speaking, but to speak in front of these professional, these people that are kind of really, this is what they study. And then the guy told me, he goes, it doesn't matter what you talk about. They just want to hear a professional speaker. And I'm like, whoa, professional speaker. Yeah, I do get paid. I guess I am a professional speaker, but to have those two words together was kind of like, wow. And my message is, yeah, why not you? And I swear to you, people, you hear this all the time, but if I can do this, you can do it. You know, if you ask anybody from when I was younger, you can ask Bill. I was painfully shy. I was painfully shy. And to be able to go up on stage now is just, it feels like a miracle to me.
Well, it is a miracle, right? We've all evolved, you know, through circumstances. In my case, through adversity and necessity. Maybe in your case, through adversity. I don't know enough about you, but you know, I think that that's a common story, and it's really the great thing about the human spirit. Is what doesn't break you makes you stronger. And we're always, you know, we're out there doing the best we can and trying to grow and trying to make the most of ourselves. Yeah. And so it's pretty cool, I think. So tell me something crazy that you've done besides the entities in hypnotism.
I think the entities are about the craziest. I don't know that I've had, you know, there's so many, you know, I've had experiences where, I mean, you know, people that are afraid to fail, I'll tell you, I've had every failure imaginable, and that's how I've gotten to where I'm at. You know, I remember one time I did a show and nobody got hypnotized. And that is the number one fear for us first comedy hypnotists. Literally no one got hypnotized. It was only 10 people showed up for the whole thing. And a bunch of them were like these older folks with their, this looked angry. And so it was just, it was awful. It was scary.
Well, I was going to say, I think we've all suffered many failures, but that would be weird being a hypnotist and not being able to hypnotize people. But that brings me to this question. Yeah. So what makes a good candidate for hypnotism?
Well, you know, the thing is, so really, it's so funny because people all the time, they'll say, well, you know, would I be a good, I want to find out if I'm a good candidate for hypnosis. You know, actually, the number one thing people tell me, I don't think I can be hypnotized. It's so funny. Everybody thinks they can't be hypnotized. It's because they have some different idea about what hypnosis really is. Literally everyone of normal intelligence can experience hypnosis. So, but are they going to experience it in that moment? You know, can certain people, for whatever reason, it looks like based on the info from like Stanford, it sounds like that information is something about the way their brains are. Something about the brain structure allows some people to actually be hypnotized a little quicker and a little bit easier. And so we call them highly suggestible, but what it really is they're just able to go into trance really quickly and really easily. And those are the folks that we want on stage. Because I don't have a whole lot of time. I don't have a whole lot of different techniques I can do. I got to use one technique and I got to do it quick. And so some of those people that volunteered, they weren't the best candidates, but they were trying to help. They're like, well, nobody else is volunteering, so I'll go up. When they could have experienced hypnosis, you know, sitting in a chair, lying down, something like that in a quiet room. But up in front of all these people, they can't.
Yeah, like stage fright, right?
Exactly. So pretty much, yeah, I mean, really anyone that wants hypnosis can, but everybody thinks they can't be hypnotized. It's so funny. It's a totally natural process. We all have these crazy ideas about what it is, but it's a natural process.
Okay, well, very interesting. Well, thank you. I have some crazy questions to ask you before we wrap up.
Cool.
So if you could have dinner with any three people, who would that be and why? They could be living or dead.
Well, I guess I would probably say I'll do the typical. I'd say, gee, I'd love to know, you know, what his thoughts were on stuff. You know, if how much has been, you know, you know, kind of messed with. I'd also like, you know, I'd like to go back and talk to like the first human being that was sort of like a human being, and just ask him like, you know, things about like what was stuff like back then or something. I don't know.
Well, they would make some good books afterwards, wouldn't they? You go like,
because you know, I'm so curious about like what was really going on back then, you know. You know, I'd love to be able to. My grandmother passed away about 10 years ago. I'd love to have dinner with her. Talk to her.
Okay. What's your favorite pie?
Oh Lord,
that you're not allowed to have anymore?
Well, I choose not to.
Do you have a cheat day?
No, you know what? Well, I mean, I do cheat sometimes, but I don't have a designated cheat day.
Okay.
But yeah, lemon pie.
Lemon meringue. That does sound good about now, actually. Okay, vacation. Where would you go? All expenses paid if you had to leave tomorrow.
Bali, and I actually had it scheduled. I was looking at flights. It's funny what you said, because I was looking at flights. It was $943 for round trip, $20 a night for hotel, and I was like, yes. And then, like, the next day, I get a call about a booking, and like September is one of the good months to go, and they booked it like October 7th, so it wouldn't work out now. So I'm like, oh, now I gotta wait till February or March.
Oh, well, enjoy your travels. Maybe
Thanks.
we should interview you from Bali. You can like show us around. That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jim, you have been fabulous. If people want to know more about you or hypnotism, where can they find you?
You know, check out my website, jimkellnerhypnotist.com. And then if you're one of those folks like I was, and it sounds like, you know, Tiffany had some of these issues too with self-esteem and that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people have self-esteem issues. I'd love to invite you to just grab a free hypnosis process and a class that I put together. And you can get that at jimkellner.info/dreamsrecycled.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for that. And we'll be putting his links and where to find him at the bottom of all the social media. So thank you, Jim. You have been great, and continue your fabulous work helping people through hypnosis, which is awesome.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. It's great talking to you.
Thanks, Jim.